Hello, my dear friends. I hope that you're doing well. I want to help you today because I want to make sure that while everything else is going on, you don't lose focus on the thing that's going to get you through all of this, which is your ability to remain productive. Consider this sort of a tough love session because a lot of people, and I understand where they're coming from, are putting a heavy emphasis on sort of a stay at home, watch Netflix, and ride it out approach to what's going on right now. I cannot overemphasize to you that as a business owner, what a bad idea that is. Okay? As a business owner, what you do today is what you will experience tomorrow. All right? So what that means is if your plan right now is to just do nothing and wait it out until the water's calm, there's a couple of things you need to understand. One, 3-point-something million people just filed for unemployment, which means to me, I'm not an economist, I'm not an epidemiologist, I'm not an expert, but I take that data and I say, oh, this is not going to be over anytime soon. This is going to go on for a while. So if the plan is to sit back and write it out, you're going to be writing it out for a really long time. And the second thing to know about that is that what you're giving away is momentum. Meaning, as you ride this out, not really being terribly productive, what ends up happening is the scenario under which you have to generate momentum and therefore income becomes more difficult to do so in, right? So it's easier to get clients now than it will be in 10 weeks. That I can almost guarantee you. Unless somebody comes out with a vaccine tomorrow and we're all back to work and it's all fine. But that's not the way I'm betting myself. As a business owner, I need to, especially because I have people that work for me. So just in the No Pants Project alone, in our Basecamp system, which is the project management software that we use, we have, I think, 19 people that are connected to the No Pants Project. Plus all the softwares and all the, we have a lot of people that need me to stay sort of ahead of this thing, or to not be naive about what could happen, to plan for the worst, hope for the best. Okay. So, and not to mention their families, my family, like there's so many, all the students of the No Pants Project, there's so many things at play during this time that my approach is just like assume that the worst thing is going to happen, because so far it's looking like that's sort of the way that it's going. Now, does that mean we should freak out? No, it just means let's get a realistic picture of what's going on. Okay, so if you don't make forward progress right now, and you don't remain productive right now, you won't be able to eat the fruits of that productivity and momentum tomorrow, which is really when you're going to really need it. Just think about how long it takes to close a client, right? Let's just walk through this process because I want to show you what I'm talking about here. Let's say that you're using direct outreach to get a client, okay? You send some emails. How long does that take you? Let's say it takes you a couple of hours today just to go find and research the emails that you're going to send out. Tomorrow, it takes you a couple of hours to send those emails out. The next day, you maybe have a couple of responses. You go back and forth, you schedule a call. Now we're 4 days into this thing, and you're just getting started scheduling a call. Let's say the call is scheduled for a week from the day they schedule it. Now we're a week and a half into our first call. First call, unless you have, unless you're sort of lucky, it's probably not going to be a first call close, especially under these conditions. There's going to be some follow-up. You're looking at another week. So we're 2.5 weeks in from effort that we took 2.5 weeks ago before we finally maybe get the first confirmation. Then you have to wait for the payment. Then you have to. This is why it's so important to not let off the gas right now, because in 10 weeks, if this thing keeps going, you don't want to wake up one day and be like, oh shoot, I need money today. and then start the process of gathering clients, of prospecting, of closing deals, because that kind of desperation is very difficult to do. I mean, it puts you in a bad position as a salesperson because you're desperate for the money, which compromises your ability to negotiate. It compromises your ability to have confidence. It compromises your ability to get what you need in terms of asking price and all these sorts of things. So I'm just trying to hit home to you. I get why people are saying just basically watch Netflix and relax. I get it. What I want to do is give you a better alternative to solve that same problem, like the same reason why people are just watching Netflix and doing nothing. I want to give you some tips to address that same issue while also not sacrificing productivity. Okay? So to give you an idea, and this is not like a humble brag or something, I just want to give you an idea of where I'm at currently in my productivity. So in Basecamp, we do this thing where we, at the end of the day, our team says, hey, here's what we're up to. Here's what we're doing. Here's what we're working on. And we basically ask these 4 questions, and it's really, really cool. I did not come up with this idea. I wish that I did, but my awesome operations director, Kaylee, she's the one who thought this up. But anyway, so at the end of the day, we ask, what did you do today? What obstacles and concerns did you run up against? Do you need help with anything? And what will you focus on tomorrow? So we do this little reporting thing every day, and here's what I wrote for yesterday on what I did, okay? Now, this is just for the No Pants Project. I also worked on my fiction, and I also took 2 conference calls from my private outside of No Pants Project work as well. Everything I'm about to describe to you was done in about 6.5 hours of focused, concerted work and effort. I'm spending a lot of time with my family right now, and so keep that in mind as well. But here's what I was able to do. I did the daily email. So I said daily email for tomorrow. I did a 40-minute podcast episode for the daily email for tomorrow. I compiled and finished the new sales letter for the Done For You services, which, by the way, we're going to be opening and expanding our Done For You services probably sometime next week, because we realized we need to get in here and start helping people, as many people as we can. That was kind of closed off for a while because frankly, we have enough clients. We're fine with the clients that we have, but we're probably going to open that up probably next week or 2 weeks from now. I wrote and finished the new video sales letter, and I recorded that video sales letter for the Done For You services. I completed edits on 22 pages for the newsletter, which is just 22 pages. I think this month's newsletter is going to be 70 pages long. It's crazy. It's like a book. I recorded an overview, did feedback for our current funnels. So I went through all of the funnels that we're building for ourselves and for our clients, recorded feedback. I think that was probably about 45 minutes or something. Answered client questions in Basecamp. I recorded 4 new lessons for the 5K. I set up the Beat That Control contest in Wealthy Writer. By the way, if you're in our Wealthy Writer program, we're trying to figure out ways to give back money to you guys. And we're having these really cool things where we are running what's called Beat the Control. So if you can beat our winning Facebook ad, we'll give you $1,000, and we'll have a conversation about potentially coming on board as a copywriter in the No Pants Project, which is a 6-figure plus per year job. But those are only for people who are in our Wealthy Writer program. And then, of course, did email answering, networking with potential critical hires, reviewing team performance. We did a bunch of finance stuff yesterday, and et cetera, et cetera. So the point that I'm trying to make there is not, wow, Mike, you're so amazing, and give me a pat on the back. I don't really care what you think about how much I did. What I'm trying to share with you is that level of productivity is kind of what you need to be doing right now. I know that on social media, you're getting a lot of examples from people who are showing you what they are doing, right? And much of what they are doing is goofing around, putting memes up, funny toilet paper jokes, complaining about how things are being run, scaremongering, hating on other people. I get that that's what you're exposed to. What I want to hopefully do with me just sharing that is to show you what some other people are doing, right? and to allow you to balance those two different ideas, and to ask yourself, who do you want to be more like right now? And really honestly to ask yourself, which of those two approaches is likely going to be more helpful to me in the weeks to come, right? What's the quote? If you want to, I don't even know what the quote is, but it's basically like, if you look around and everybody is doing something, my recommendation is don't do that thing, especially if it's just being goofy and not being productive and not being focused. There are real consequences to not maintaining productivity during times like this. I know I'm hammering this, and I know it's probably boring at this point. I'm at a point where I'm sort of desperately pleading with you. This is a warning shot over the bow. This is, please, you guys, don't fall into the trap of letting go of productivity because everybody else is, or because it feels all scary and stuff, okay? So now let me give you the actual tools, okay? So I've told you what we need to do and beat it over everybody's head. Let me actually give you the tools to do this. So the first tool I learned when I was 18. After I graduated from high school, I went straight into firefighting as a wildland firefighter. I got on a Type 2A crew, and we went up to Alaska. That was the first summer of my firefighting experience. And we went to this little town called Eagle, which was like a 12-and-a-half-hour bus ride northeast of Fairbanks, Alaska, right on the Yukon River. The crew bosses, so the people in the fire who would ride around on the ATVs and tell crews where to go and stuff. Some of the local crew bosses, they all had revolvers because of bears and other problems, which some of them were human related. One night we had this guy come into our camp, so we were all camped out, sitting around a fire, like just telling dumb stories, and this guy comes into our camp with this long rifle, and it was a black powder long rifle. I don't even know what kind it was, but he comes in and he sits down like totally uninvited, and he starts telling us about like there's aliens down in the lower 48, and he came up to Alaska in the 70s, and I mean it was really kind of wild and crazy. He was like one of the local guys. The little town of Eagle at the time had like one general store and 4 saloons, and like it was straight out of the wild, wild west. Anyways, so we're up in Alaska, and during that time, it was 2004, and it was one of the worst fire seasons on record for Alaska. And we were on what's called the Eagle Complex Fire, which was a very large fire. It was one of the largest ones that season. And we were stretched to our limits. The reason that we were in Alaska is because they had a massive shortage of firefighters. That's how I was able to go at 18 on a Type 2A crew. So what that meant is we as a team were really stretched to our limits. We had multiple 36-hour shifts, which, by the way, if you ever want to have a life experience and you ever get the opportunity to see thousands of acres on fire at night, it puts things into perspective pretty good. Especially that I remember specifically one night we were on sort of the opposite ridge of this massive sort of, you could sort of call it a blowover. It was when the fire changed direction, and we had to get pulled out, and we were just kind of camping out on the ridge, and it's probably like 2:00 in the morning, and we'd been working for, I don't even remember at that point, almost delirious from work. And the fire was just, the only word I can use is amazing, in the sense of it truly was a humbling, awe-inspiring sort of look at Mother Nature, and look at just sort of on the one hand, the fragility of life, in that we were just these little people with Pulaskis and MREs and nothing but our ability to dig trails trying to stop this huge thing. And that was a really, really good experience. But the big lesson I learned that summer is we had this guy on our crew, and he was absolutely hilarious. He during the year would just be a homeless, like just bum around, not by force but by choice. He would just live in a tent. Like he would travel down to Venice Beach and Ventura, California, and just live on the beach and like hide in. Like he said that he would sometimes sleep and hide in the lifeguard shacks, like sleep in there at night and stuff. And then during the summer, he'd come do firefighting. And he was hilarious and he was so funny, but he also helped me to learn a really important lesson because he had a very serious difficulty with not knowing how long we would be on a job. He was just obsessed with when are we done? When are we going to eat lunch? When are we going to sleep? When are we? He had this mentality about him that he seemed to only be able to function if he could measure how long the effort he needed to put into something was going to take. Like he was obsessed with pacing himself. Now, in that particular fire season, on that particular fire, there was no pacing yourself at all because we hardly ever knew how long we were going to be out. We would take basically as many MREs as we could carry. We would go out to where they told us to go out to, and then we would just react to what the fire was doing, and sometimes that lasted 2 or 3 days. Sometimes we would camp somewhere, and they would call us off the camp in the middle of the night, and we'd come back a day or two later, and where we had our tents and were sleeping had been burned over. I mean, that's just the reality of what that situation was. And as things are developing now with the coronavirus and all this stuff, I'm just reminded of that same feeling of how long is this going to last? How can I pace myself? How can I make sure that everything that needs to get done gets done on time? And what is the timing? And there's so many unknowns floating around. And so I was thinking about this guy the other day, and I remember that my crew boss, who was just the meanest son of a gun you have ever met, just went off on him one day. And because, it's obviously really frustrating if somebody keeps asking, how long is this going to take, and you yourself don't know. He went off on this guy, and he said something that was fairly profound. I don't think he meant to say it, and it was, tucked in between all the curse words, right? But he said, it doesn't matter how long it's going to take. The only thing that matters is what you're doing right now. And when I came back from firefighting, excuse me, and I went through all of my stuff that I went through in becoming homeless and doing all that stuff, making bad choices, and I really started getting into personal development. There's a really good book called, let's see if I had to pull it up to remember the exact words, How to Stop Worrying and Start Living by Dale Carnegie. If you're feeling paralyzed right now and you are struggling with your ability to be productive, I would highly recommend you go read that book. There's a very important concept in there called living in airtight compartments. And the example that is given in the book, or maybe it's extrapolated from the book, somebody maybe was commenting on it, but big container ships, so the ones that are in the middle of the ocean right now, full of the goods that we need to live and survive, the protection that they have against sinking in the middle of the ocean is the boat itself is sort of chopped up into these little sections, right? And these sections are sealable in case of emergency. So if there's a puncture in the hull of the boat in one particular section, they can seal that section off. So while water may be coming into that particular section, and that particular section may be completely destroyed, the boat itself is still floating. It's still going to get where it needs to go. It's still able to deliver the value that it is meant to deliver. The problem right now that is robbing you of your productivity is that you are very likely, if you're feeling overwhelmed in all of this stuff that's going on, I don't even know what to call it anymore, because it's not even coronavirus. Now it's the economy, and there's so many things going on right now all at once, that if you try and absorb all of it, plus what you need to get done with your job, plus taking care of your family, plus many of you, let's be real here, many of you are probably going to have a relative who gets coronavirus if they don't already have it. Like, let's just say it like it is. Let's get ready for this, right? Or you're going to know somebody, or you're going to be affected by this somehow. You're going to get it yourself. Okay, so how do you deal with all of this all at the same time? Well, the lesson that I've learned over the years is you develop the ability to compartmentalize everything that's going on, give it its own room and space, then prioritize all of those things, and one step at a time, work through from top priority to least priority everything that you're trying to do. So let me give you an example. If a ship that is living in an airtight compartment, a ship that's at sea, and it has the airtight compartments in the hull of, in its hull, and it runs into an iceberg or something, the captain doesn't say, let's address all of the airtight compartments all at the same time. They identify which of the compartments needs the attention now. They address that one first. Then they move to checking everything else. Right now, if you're watching social media, you're watching the news, you're looking at your business, you're checking your bank account every 5 minutes, I would bet all the money in my pocket that you are not doing any active prioritization of your attention. Meaning you are just opening the internet and reacting to what's going on. And you're jumping from this to that and this to that, and you've likely not done any analysis of what am I doing right now and how does this fall within a priority spectrum. Now, that's not really your fault, to be frank. And I don't mean that in the sort of sales copy way of, it's not your fault, so buy my thing. I mean, it literally isn't your fault. There's really, really good books about how much thought and genius creativity goes into the way the internet is built to essentially keep you from prioritizing things, right? To suck your attention to where the people who invented the app or are running the web page, like they want your attention more than anything. Okay. Now, how do you do this though? How do you actually prioritize things? How do you realistically create these airtight compartments in your life? Well, when I was firefighting, and before I ended up doing firefighting for the city, during my off seasons of firefighting, I would cook. So I've been cooking in kitchens since I was 14 professionally. And so I would go get a job as a cook. And I remember one of my very first chef mentors, his name was Gareth, an absolute wild man, a pirate. Look, as I was thinking about this podcast, looking back on much of my life, the first half of my life, I just was surrounded by just absolutely wild people. For example, I don't know if you guys have seen this yet, but the Tiger King film, that Joe Exotic guy, I'm related to people like that, right? that's my life. That's how I grew up. So anyway, this chef mentor of mine, Gareth, he really showed me If you've never run a kitchen before, you've never worked in a kitchen, and I'm talking like fine dining, high standard kitchens, it is absolute chaos. It is just high stress chaos, but it's organized. And one of the things that I've noticed that really, really good chefs do is they make lists like you have never seen. You may think you're good at making lists. These guys will make lists on lists on lists and lists within their lists. Now, it seems so simple for you to be 25 minutes into this podcast and you're saying, Mike, are you seriously just telling me to go make a list? But let's talk about this for a second, because I think people, it's like Jim Rohn used to say, things that are simple to do are simple not to do. But it is those simple things that will get us to where we want to go. Think about what you're trying to do right now mentally, okay? If you are checking your Facebook, if you're checking social, if you're constantly checking your finances, if you're constantly refreshing your emails, if you're constantly having conversations with other people about what's going on, if you're constantly worrying about everything, about your clients, about your job, if you're constantly worrying about everything, you are communicating to your brain, okay? By you deciding to put something into your brain, you're sending a signal to your brain that says, do something about this. Now, you may not think that that's what you're doing, but your brain automatically does that, okay? Your brain automatically looks for problems to solve. And so if you put problems in your brain, it will try to solve them. Now, the problem is that you're holding in your head all these different problems that you put in there by consuming all this stuff online, by randomly checking things, by trying to hold everything you need to do in your head. And so your brain is experiencing decision fatigue, right? Because your brain does have a sort of a diminishing return on its ability to make decisions. It gets tired of having to solve problems. It's the argument behind why guys like Zuckerberg and Steve Jobs wear the same thing every single day. It's so they don't have to waste any decision energy on what they're wearing. Okay, so here you are, you've got all this stuff going on in your head, and you're starting to experience decision fatigue. You likely are feeling it right now. You just feel kind of sluggish and tired, and you're kind of like just worn out, even though you haven't actually made anything. You've just consumed a bunch of stuff. It's because you've consumed a bunch of problems, your brain's trying to solve it, and then this is the second order consequence of decision fatigue while holding all these problems in your head, is that your brain starts to realize it's not coming up with very good solutions. So now stress and worry are increased because your brain is tired of making solutions, and you're feeling out of control. You're feeling helpless because nothing's really getting solved. And it's getting harder to solve the problems because you have too many problems trying to be solved at once in your mind. So where the list comes in, and why the list is so powerful, is that you can take everything that's in your mind, get it out of your mind in a way that your mind can say, okay, the solution to this problem is we're going to put it on this paper. And I'm okay with that. I'm going to get it out of my head. I'm going to put it on a piece of paper. Just that alone, if all you did right now after this podcast, forget about whatever you have to do next, forget about what plans you had today, if all you do is sit down with a piece of paper and a pen and get every single thing in your head on paper. Don't try to put it in order right now. Don't try to do anything about it. Just get it out of your head and onto a piece of paper. What you will do is you will get the important things out of a bad situation. Right now, if you've been holding on to all this stuff, your brain is not a good place to be because it's a hot mess in there. So clean it out, calm it down, get it all on paper. Okay? So now you've got it all on paper. And I'm talking about everything. I'm talking about even stuff like I need to respond to this person's email. There's nothing too small to put on a list. Get it all out. Every thought, every idea, everything that you've been thinking of for 9 years, put it on a piece of paper. Then what you do, and here's where we start to get into productivity, because just getting stuff out of your head and putting on paper, that's not doing anything. It's clearing and calming your mind, but it's not actually actively creating or producing. So to actively create or produce, you need to take all of your list. At the top of a new page, write what you want. And I don't care if you just write what you want this week. I don't care if you write what you want in a year, 5 years, 10 years. Write the one thing that you want more than anything right now. Okay? Then, with that big old list of brain dump that you did earlier, take that list and put it in order in terms of the thing that is most likely to move you to the thing you want the most right now. So, what that means is, you have a lot of stuff in your head. You could go in a lot of different directions, but what you want to do is prioritize the things that will get you to where you want the fastest, and do those things first. Now, this is not an activity that you do once. To be frank, this is an activity you should be doing every single day for at least the next couple of weeks. Now, this is an activity that I do and I say every single day, but there's definitely been days I've missed, but I try to make it a daily habit, and I've done it for probably like 6 or 7 years or so. Because again, this is something I learned through my own self-imposed economic recessions, right? When I've made bad business decisions and wasn't sure how I was going to pay the rent in 10 days. Take everything out of your head, make a list, determine what it is that you want, prioritize everything in order of its ability to get you what you want the fastest. And then here's the trick, and it's so simple and so silly, people probably won't even do it, but it absolutely works. Take another piece of paper, put it on top of the new list that you've made, the prioritized list, and sort of like pull it down to where you can only see the first thing on that list. Okay, does that make sense? So cover all of the other things on this newly prioritized list with another piece of paper. Set that, so just the first thing that you can see, set that next to your computer, and all you have to do is live in the airtight compartment of completing that one thing you can see. Turn off your social media, stop checking stuff, close all the tabs on your internet browser. If you have a tab open because you're trying to remember to check it out or it has something to do with something you need to do later, write that down on your list and close the tab. Because having it open on your browser is in no way a prioritization. So now what you have this list. Let's say it's on the left side of your computer. That's where I put my list. On the top of that list, it says what you want right now more than anything. And then below that, all you can see is the first thing on that list that will get you to where you want to go. Then you sit down and you do that thing. And when you're done, you check it off, you pull the paper down to number 2, and you do that thing. Now, this all seems so brutally obvious. And it seems so simple, maybe too simple. Maybe your mind is coming up with excuses right now on why you shouldn't do it. The reason your mind is doing that is because it's scared that it hasn't come up with a solution yet for the problems that are hanging out in your mind. So give your mind a break by saying the solution is, let's take all the problems out of my mind for now, put them on a piece of paper, prioritize them, and let's just start knocking them out. So there's a lot at play here. There is the reticulating activating system of the mind. There's the biofeedback loop. There's elements of focus. There's elements of discipline. There's elements of reducing external inputs. There's all sorts of things going on. There's clarity. At the end of the day, though, what's really happening is you're getting stuff done. And everything that's going on right now, the solution to all of it is to get stuff done. Just take the fact that many hospitals have a shortage of ventilators right now. What's the solution? Somebody needs to get something done. The economy is in a rough spot. A lot of people out of work. A lot of restaurants closing down. What's the solution? Somebody's got to get something done. Stress, worry, fear, constantly checking things, those are all false flags. Those are tricks of the mind. Those are lies that we tell ourselves when we feel powerless, that we're able to contribute in some way if I just keep checking and keep sort of knowledgeable of what's going on. While it's good to be informed, it's not even 10% of what's going to actually solve the problem. What will solve the problem for you, which will allow you to be more powerful, like let's just say what it is, when you are not in a position of fear, you are more powerful as a person. When you have access to resources, when you know your rent's going to get paid, when you know everything is in line, when you know you're being successful, you are simply more powerful of a person. We can argue till the cows come home whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, whether that's fair or not fair. But the truth is, and the way things are set up now, when you are taken care of, you are able to contribute more because you're able to do more. It's the doing that matters. And I'll reiterate this one more time, and then I think we'll close this. I think this has been long enough. Please avoid the temptation when everybody else is posting on social media that it's time to just relax and turn everything off and just ride this thing out. Please understand that there's going to come a time where you need to cash in on productivity that you did yesterday. That is just going to happen. And if you don't have a productive yesterday, there's nothing to cash in on today. Okay? So hopefully this has been helpful in taking everything that's in your mind, putting it into something that offers clarity, that relieves you from decision-making fatigue, gets you into a daily practice that gets stuff done, and you can just take it one thing at a time. Anytime I see, so sometimes this happens with, I'll be frank. Sometimes this happens with people I work with, right? For example, if you work in the No Pants Project, we have a lot of stuff going on. We juggle a lot of projects. We're doing a lot of things all at once. And it's easy to try and hold on to all of the projects that we're doing at one time. If you have multiple clients, it's easy to try and hold on to them all at one time. The point is, don't hold on to any of them. Put it on a piece of paper, put it on a tracking sheet of some kind, knock it out one at a time. And I promise you, you will be so unbelievably productive in such a short amount of time that you will wonder how other people get anything done. Like you'll wonder, what were other people doing for that whole time? Because once you get into this sort of mode of productivity, things that used to take you a long time will take you hardly any time at all. And that's really going to be an important skill to develop moving forward. Okay, so that's it, my dear friends. I'm going to end this one here. Hopefully this has been helpful. I know this has been a bit doom and gloom. I know this has been a bit, maybe a little bit more direct and forward, and you may come away from this one feeling a little bit like, dang, was he talking directly at me? That kind of situation. And the answer is yeah, I probably was. And that's because I sincerely care about you, and I think that we are headed for a time, this isn't the end of the world or nothing like that, but we are headed for a time where momentum is going to play a critical component in who makes it through the next couple weeks and months unscathed. And I don't even think unscathed is the right word. Who's going to have an easier time of this unknown, open-ended, how long is this going to take? I don't know. But for now, I'm going to focus on this one thing that's on my list, which I've prioritized as the thing that gets me closest to what I want. And by the way, maybe the thing you want right now isn't business related. Maybe the thing you want right now is just a calm mind. Well, you can't get a calm mind by just thinking about getting a calm mind. You still have to do something. There's still a list of priorities and tasks and things that you've got to clear out, and then a list of things to do to get to the clear mind. So this is a helpful tool that you can use regardless of where you're at, and what you're trying to achieve right now. Business, not business, job, not job, whatever it is. All right, my friends, that's it for me. This is going to be our last reminder for the newsletter. If you go to the nopantsproject.com/newsletter, our April edition, where we've got, like I said, it's about 70 pages at this point, might even be longer, is all about what we're doing as a company, what you can do to prepare for what's coming up. We've got ways to recession-proof your business based off of myself going through an actual recession, and then also my own sort of self-imposed recessions, as I said earlier. We've got a bunch of skills that I'm sharing with you that you can start to offer other, different types of clients and things that will make you more valuable in the marketplace and really help the people who are having specific problems right now. We've got LinkedIn, client getting templates. We've got all sorts of really good stuff in this month's issue. It goes to the printer, whatever day today is that I'm recording this. It goes to the printer the weekend after this Friday. So basically, Friday at midnight is the last time that you can purchase, because we need to collect your information. Send that information off to our printer, and they will send you it's a physical newsletter. So it's a physical copy of what we do, what we're sharing this month. For that newsletter. So that's the nopantsproject.com/newsletter. All right, my dear friends, I do hope you're well. Take some time this weekend to just clear your mind, be with the people you love, one day at a time, one little step at a time. The only thing that matters is what you're doing right now, because it's actually the only thing you can control. All right, my friends, that's it, and I'll talk to you later.